Did you guys ever see anything like this? I think we've looked at it on the Shillcast before. I don't know if you were on.
Yeah,
DJ.
yeah, I do remember this. Yeah,
but like this is just the kind of thing that I think I need to make a video on this. People not liking Empire Strikes Back, and like there's this whole segment of the fan club back then that was just like, this is not Star Wars. You know, not for the reasons that Chuds would say, but like some of the same language, more or less. You know, like this isn't what we liked about it, and I'm just done with it. And I've got
I haven't seen that, but I've seen similar stuff.
We know a lot of fans have accepted Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I mean, like how dare they, right?
No, we don't claim that movie.
There's other ones though. Like I've got a couple of these. There's two of them here for Star Trek: The Next Generation when that was about to come out.
Oh my God, yeah, I remember when I was little. I remember hearing my parents talk about that.
I would request that you present your terms to us.
It's like if Star Trek is the original cast, if you don't have that cast, it's not Star Trek kind of shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I like to think
this was the era when the original cast were basically doing films. They were just doing movies at that point.
Yeah, and sorry.
I have to imagine after the first season too, because at least looking back, I know that's the one that is the least popular.
That's a rough season. Season one is rough.
It's also the only season of the show that I've seen in full. So.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, no, I've been meaning to get around to it. I've been meaning to watch through the whole thing, but then I got really, really into classic Doctor Who, which is even longer than The Next Generation. So
there's a lot of episodes.
Yeah. The Next Generation is literally like a burger. Like everything good is right in the middle of that show, like in that series for me.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say seasons 3 through 5, definitely are going to be some of the best episodes of Trek. Period. And then 6 and 7 have some decent ones. The finale's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you say you had to go, Dane? I wasn't sure if you said that earlier.
I mean, kind of. I don't have to. I'm just, I guess I feel like I should for some reason, but I'm good.
No, that was me. I was literally like laying in bed and, hanging out in chat. And then you're like, you want to jump on? And I was like, fuck it. Yeah, no, I do. All right.
Yeah, I was doing laundry. So I was like, I don't have anything else to do right now.
Oh, boy. I mean, stuff like this is interesting because you can point to individual like phrases and kind of rhetorical flourishes that directly mirror what people do these days. But I think in a broader sense, stuff like this is important just because it kind of dispels the myth of the good old days of media where, back then we all loved Star Wars and, the idea that it's a new thing for quote fans to reject things.
For me, it's always been like music. Like growing up, I remember like how my parents and other people used to talk about hip hop music and how awful it was and it will never go anywhere and it's never going to be as good as the music that we grew up on and blah, 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 and all that shit. And I remember loving it as a kid. I listened to it and I loved so much hip hop music. And now hip hop is just, it's one of the biggest forms of music in the world. And it's really refined itself. You can go back and look at classic hip hop and there's like elements to it. There's like a rich history of hip hop music now. And it just reminds me of like that situation. And when that happened, what I told myself as a teenager was I will never, ever get to a point in my life where I shit on something new or different for the sake of like trying to defend the stuff that I loved when I was younger. Because
that's a big motivator behind my, like how I, am try not to let anybody be a fucking gatekeeper, even, and even for something I don't like. Yeah. It's a big thing for me.
And these old guys that are doing it, like Nerdrotic and Jeremy and Ryan Cannell, these older guys doing it, in order for them to cope with their midlife crisis, they have to rope in these young, disenfranchised people who feel like the world around them doesn't make sense. So they're giving them hope and purpose because they need those guys to support them. Because they feel they literally don't like their world would crash around them completely if they didn't have people that they could convince that they were right, because without that, they are literally insignificant, and that's something they cannot deal with.
What's really pathetic and fucked up when you really think about it is that there's probably a section of their audience that actually kind of thinks of them as basically rock stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no, I get comments like that all the time where they're just, you know, whichever person, usually it's Gary, like, Gary is epic, he's awesome, he's fighting the good fight, like, whatever.
Yeah, to think that these people have, like, your interest in mind at all is fucking bizarre. Here's this, it's not exactly the same thing, but it, you know, conveys the same thing, and I think it's a pretty good little cartoon.
Yeah. I don't know, I don't want no queers around my kids, you feel me? Look, after I just don't want that woke agenda in my kids' education. Yeah, I mean, that's literally, all of this is basically dog whistly stuff. Although I will say they've gotten away from dog whistles. They've kind of started just saying stuff now, which is exactly what we predicted last year would happen. And they're eating each other alive. We're seeing it in like places like Comicsgate and other spaces.
Where, we didn't even get into that yesterday. But
no, we didn't get a chance to talk about that. Like, we're seeing the Comicsgate community is literally fractured in a way that I haven't seen in forever.
Discord servers that have just shut down, basically.
It's crazy. I mean, and there's also the infighting. You have like Vito fighting with people associated with Frog Tony, and now apparently Vito's not talking to EVS, and so the Dick Masterson thing is also an issue. Like, there's just all of this infighting that's I said in the other day to a couple of the podcasts. And I just said, all of this is so stupid. I mean, the only sense it makes to me is there's no one else to talk about anymore. So now it's just like a cannibalism situation.
They get more traction in their videos by shitting at each other than they do with like SJWs or anything anymore. Whenever that started to happen, that was the beginning of the end, I think. You know, like when they would just talk about Heather Antos no longer was as viable for a video topic or whatever as like talking about Eric July.
I think that was the big turning point. Honestly, I know we've talked about the stuff that we've been kind of around for. I think the big turning point for the Chud channels, at least the bigger ones, was the division around Eric July, and then everything is sort of splintered out from that. I think
I got a video out about this with it that Malachi was on stream with me whenever I realized that they had not seen the Snyder moment. You know, they didn't know that happened. And I was like, "Oh my god, you have to fucking see this!" And we watched it, and so yeah, and I titled it when I uploaded it like "This is the beginning of the end," and the response that video got was pretty cool. A lot of people seem to agree with that sentiment. That was where it really like just the you know first shot in the fucking, I don't know, whatever analogy I can't think of because I'm too tired. But like everything started fracturing out from there. But then like yes, when it comes to just the almost like the final big division, it was Eric and Ethan. And because they all of these things both of these are so entrenched with each other.
I mean, think about what happened. Nina Infinity no longer associates with them anymore because she was the one that told Dick Masterson to read Isom, and so they kind of exiled her. I mean, I want to say Eric July is like the center. I know we talked about how much he doesn't really matter anymore, but he was kind of the center of all of this because of the massive egos that these guys have. It was impossible for them to exist in the same galaxy.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same reason, like the reason that they can't continue in perpetuity, can't like continue associating forever, is the same reason that they're not wanted at, you know, fan events and meetups and interactions with like actual, you know, studio people or comics people or whatever. Is like just poor emotional regulation. Like it's not even.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, and that means that they're not going to like reconcile either, right? Like,
right? Yeah. No, I just like it. I don't even think it's just ego. Like I think it's a combination of ego and an inability to properly manage it. Because I think a lot of people are charismatic and have big egos and continue to maintain relationships with people. Because as it turns out, if you want your ego fulfilled, maintaining positive relationships is a pretty good way of doing that.
And in my opinion, the underlying cause behind all this stuff is just because the money is dwindling. The market is going away for this shit. Like people just, you know, I mean, yeah, there's going to always be people that want to watch stuff like this, and there's probably always going to be some grifter, you know, grifting with fandom and stuff like that. But as far as like being the cultural, you know, kind of a tumor that it's been, that grew for a while, but then I think it's just retracted quite a bit. You know, we need to do another Chudpocalypse check-in sometime, DJ, where we're like, look at their numbers again, just to see how they're doing. Because yeah, they were all on the downswing for quite a while there. The only two that were doing anything rising in numbers were Drinker and Gary. And in hindsight, now I think that, you know, like Gary hit 1 million subs, you know, during this period whenever they were crossing over with Benny Johnson. Did you see that, Drinker? I mean, Drinker. Sorry, fucking goddamn, I'm tired. Pillar. You're not.
Oh, I don't know if I did see that one. No.
Where like how often they fucking crossed over, and in all of it within, like most of it within the last year. So the first time that I found that Benny Johnson, who is now, you know, supposedly an unwitting, I know
he's been on FNT a bunch. Yeah. Yeah.
Unwitting Russian agent Benny Johnson.
He's a victim in all this.
He's a victim. Yeah, he's a victim that took a shitload of money to say things.
And also, so speaking of his role in this, and I want to be clear because he said that if anyone says he's not a victim, he's going to sue them. So of course he's a victim. But yes, if you do a bit of, and this isn't a point I'm making explicitly in my video, I'm kind of laying it out and not saying it. But you know, he said, "Oh, I'm an independent contractor. I was just doing my own thing." Blah blah blah. But if you do. I can't prove this, but if you do a bit of matching up from the indictment and all the commentators it identifies to the people that were on Tenet, it does seem like he is commentator 3, and that would mean he is the one that the Russian, the female RT employee Elena Afanasieva, that's her name, got via Chen to cover the terror attack. Like that is the example the indictment gives.
I have that video clip back. Yeah.
That is the indictment. That is the example. That is the main example the indictment gives of like the direct response to RT talking points. And like it seems like he's the guy that did that. Not, you know, probably not knowingly.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying it is what it is. Okay? The world is not sunshine and gumdrops. There are bad people, and oftentimes in war.
I think that's it, but nonetheless. So yeah, just like, okay, so he first streamed with them in I think it was October 2022, right? And you know, because I watched a bit of it where they're talking about how he said I first saw Drinker's videos, and then I was like, oh, this guy gets it, and then I found you guys, and you know, they're all filleting each other and stuff. But that was 2022. But then they didn't seem to like cross over content very much at all. I would need to look and see exactly how much until like literally the last year. Oh, look, there's our friend Nerd Wars. You know, so Benny Johnson's included in that as well. And just basically once they started doing it, I don't know if it was before they flew out to his place or not. By the way, who paid for that trip?
Yeah, that's something I kind of,
you know, it's a lot of content, and also just anytime they were being attacked by Disney or whatever the fuck kind of narrative, he was making a video about that too. You know, defending them and shit. And oh god, that's pretty.
Oh my god, it's us.